Hello, this is Starry Ari's ASMR. I am Ari, and today we are set up in my bathroom because I need to clean my makeup brushes. So I just got back from our trip, and I would like to clean my brushes so that they are all nice and fresh again. So I have these in this little travel pouch. These are the ones that I packed with me, but I also have a couple just off to the side that I didn't pack that I also would like to clean. So I imagine that you will hear lots of trickling water sounds, and hopefully it will be satisfying watching the brushes become clean. This is kind of an experimental video, so we'll see how well it actually goes. But I also have a little stand that is off to the side that I will show you, I think, at the end, that I can put the brushes into and hang them kind of like upside down so that they dry nicely. So I think we'll probably do that at the end. But I have these brushes here. I'm going to set this off to the side for now. And I have some makeup brush cleaner. This is a new one for me. I just kind of ordered this on Amazon. Sometimes I like to just use regular, like plain unscented hand soap, or I've used like really basic brush cleaners. I think I got it like from Walmart or something, but I picked this one up because I was all out with my other brush cleaner. So I'm going to give this a try today. And then I also have this little suction cup, like a cleaner mat, I guess. And it has all of these different ridges, and it really helps the soap get into the bristles of the brush so that they really separate out and get nice and clean. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn on the water a little bit. Just going to leave it kind of a slow trickle. And the first brush I have here is this big, I think it's called a kabuki brush. It's a foundation brush. So I'm going to first get this a little bit wet. And then now I'm going to take a little bit of our brush cleaner and just put a small amount on the brush. And now I'm just going to take this and move it around our little cleaning mat. And you can see that there is some runoff happening. This one is pretty dirty because I use it I usually like to kind of keep scrubbing and rubbing the water in until the runoff is completely clean. And for these bigger brushes, that does tend to take a little bit of extra time. Okay, I think that I'm going to call that good for this brush. So I'm just going to kind of squeeze out the water as best I can. And I'm just going to set it off to the side for now. And the next brush is this flat foundation brush. So I imagine this one will also take us a good amount of soap to get perfectly clean. Sometimes I'm having as much come out, which I think maybe means that I only really used this one maybe once since its last wash. I am pretty terrible at washing my brushes regularly though. This one I'm just kind of brushing back and forth on the mat, like that. It does have a little bit of staining down here. I've had this brush for quite a few years, so no matter how many times I've washed this brush, it always has that staining. So I'm just giving it a really good rinse right now. And then I'm just going to squeeze that water out. Okay, I'm going to set this one off to the side. Next I have this flat shadow brush. These eyeshadow brushes tend to go a little bit faster. And I don't think I really had a lot of product on this brush, so that one is already running off pretty clean. So I'm pretty happy with that. This is the next brush. This is a round shadow blending brush. This is one of my absolute favorite eyeshadow brushes because it just kind of blends everything so nicely. There we go. Yeah, that one had quite a bit of color in it. I think that most of these brushes that you're going to see are my AOA Studio brushes. They are typically my go-to kind of everyday brush. Okay, I'm getting pretty happy with how that one's looking now. Perfect. So I'm going to set this one off to the side. This is another blending brush, but it kind of comes into a point, so it's for much more precise blending. I really like having a mat like this because I can usually get, a decent amount of the soap rubbed into the brush just with my hand. But having the mat just makes it so much more convenient, and it just makes the process go faster. Here we go. This next one is an angle brush, and I use this brush to fill in my eyebrows with a little bit of powder. And a little bit of color coming off, not too much. Okay, I think that is looking pretty okay. It's very, very satisfying cleaning makeup brushes and having them kind of go back to their original state. This next brush is another big fluffy blending brush. This one is actually, I think it says Luxie. I think I got this one in an Ipsy bag, but I really like it. next one is a flat liner brush. As you can see, it has pretty dark color on it. I usually use it with black or dark brown eyeshadow, and I use that to line the upper or lower lash line. This one I think I'm going to use a little bit more soap just to really make sure all of that color is out. Okay. So that looks good to me now. This next brush is a concealer brush. And it's just flat, and you can use it to just sort of pack it on your concealer and pat it in. I usually use my beauty sponges to blend in my liquid foundation and concealer, but sometimes I use this brush if I have kind of a bigger blemish that I want to conceal. This just makes it a little bit easier to pack that concealer on, just lightly pat it out. This next one is another flat eyeshadow brush. I like this one mainly for packing on my base color of eyeshadow. Okay, that one is done. This one is a big angled fluffy brush that I use to blend out my eyeshadow, usually right around the edges of my eyeshadow. really small, flat eyeshadow brush. I usually use this one to pack on shimmer eyeshadow if I'm doing kind of more of a glam look. Okay. Next I have this little spoolie. I mainly use this to either brush through, like comb through my eyelashes, or brush through my brow hairs. I don't really use this one too much, but it's still good to give it a good clean. Especially brushes that you use around your eyes. I think it's really important to make sure that they're at least clean before you put them on your eyes again. I am not the best at that, so I'm definitely giving advice that I don't always necessarily follow, but it's good advice that I should follow. Okay, and then this is kind of my last eye brush, I believe, and I use this one to comb through my eyelashes, maybe if I have some clumps, or brush through my eyebrows. That one looks good. This is an angled contour brush. This one had a decent amount of product in it. It's nicer with these bigger brushes that I can just kind of do these big sweeping motions across the mat. I do think I am going to add a second bit of soap on this one, just to really make sure that it is nice and clean by the end. Because as we're seeing, we're still getting a decent amount of color coming out. there is also something just so nice about using fresh makeup brushes, like freshly cleaned makeup brushes. Like the application just goes so much smoother. And every time I'm like, wow, I should really make a point to wash my brushes at least after every few uses. And then I get lazy and I do not. Please don't judge me too much. Here we go. I like the color pattern of these brushes. So they have like a lighter color down here and then a darker color, and then the tips are kind of like a white. It's a little hard to tell when they're wet. I think that they look really nice. This one is a highlight brush, so I primarily just use it with highlighter. Okay. Oh, good. This next one is a blush brush. So the color coming out of this one is definitely a lot more pink than any of the other ones. I think I will do a second round of soap for this one as well. This one, it looks like it's maybe stained pink in some spots, just very lightly. And it's looking good. And then I have this big fluffy brush that I primarily use for bronzer, but you can use it maybe with setting powder or other face powders. This one does have a little stain down here because a little while ago I accidentally got mascara on this brush. I don't even remember how, but I did, and it stained the lower bristles a tiny bit. I think I added enough soap to this one at the beginning that it doesn't need anymore. So these are all of the brushes that I cleaned, as well as a few of my beauty sponges. So I'm just going to set these back here off to the side. And then I have this little stand that has all of these little spots where I can slide the brushes into, and it helps with their drying time. So I don't like to shove the brushes in this way. So what I'm going to do is first put them all in with the handle down, and then I can lift this top part, flip it, and then put it back on the stand, and that way all of the brushes end up face down, and that just helps with the drying time, I found. It just makes them kind of like fluff out a little bit better. I'm going to start with these kind of bigger brushes. I think this one needs a little bit smaller. There we go. I think this one needs a smaller one. There we go. So now I have all of the brushes in the holder here. And what I'm going to do is just take this up off of the stand, flip it over, and then place it this way. And then now all of my brushes are hanging upside down, and they can dry out nicely. And after a few hours, I'll probably come in and kind of floof them out some more. just to make sure that the bristles all really separate and that everything really gets nice and dry. But that is it. That's my process. It's not very glamorous, but I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it works out. We'll see if I'm able to edit it together. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have